Hey everybody, Jason Bermas here, and in this broadcast, we are going to revisit a lot of the wartime propaganda, mainly from the World War II era. And I really want people, when they watch this, to reflect on what they're watching in this era of open censorship and shaming and racism and equating Japanese people to rats. Does that sound like something else? I'm pretty sure that there was another group of people that were equating yet another group of people as rats. But we were doing that with the Japanese. And in fact, some of this stuff is really so racist that we'll have to only put it on certain platforms. If you are on the YouTube platform, we will give you a heads up before we move to Rockfin. And we are streaming live on Podbean, so maybe we'll take some callers as well. But if you've been paying attention to the broadcast, especially in these times of ultra censorship, okay, and the hyping of global warfare everywhere. Guys, I can't turn on a mainstream news network that is Western, that is not hyping up global warfare and conflict. And when they say that truth is really the first casualty of war, you better believe it. And there are so many things in retrospect that you have to look at via World War II and say, was it okay for the United States to do this to people? Was it okay for the United States to ration gasoline with tickets? Now, of course, they're not going to do it with tickets this time. If they decide to go that route, they will try to do it with a digital tyrannical infrastructure that we've already seen put in place all over the globe via the COVID 1984 nightmare. Okay, is it okay to shame people, and in this case, in World War II, women, all right, into doing the bidding of the military-industrial complex? That's really the question here, okay? And we've talked recently about post-World War II and how the national security infrastructure was really built and Born Classified was built. And that's why Eisenhower began to warn about this military-industrial complex, actually coined the term in his farewell address. But this is the precursor to that. And we've talked about Bob Hope. Bob Hope is the reason, really, as soon as I saw this, Hollywood Goes to War, that I picked it up, okay? So a lot of you guys know, I do thrift shopping a lot, electronics, video games, historical stuff, always interests me, books. And this, it captivated me all the way through, okay? And so one of the first things we're going to do when we go through this, I'm going to play a cartoon on censorship that was obviously highly produced. And when we get to some of the pre-clipped stuff, then we're going to move it over to the Rockfin and other areas. But I do want people really to understand, I've been in this game a long time. I think some of my work is very important and prominent and should be viewed, and especially in the context of today, before all of it's gone. Loose Change, Final Cut, Fabled Enemies. Learn about 9/11. And then, if you want to understand what's happening right now, Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture, Shade the Motion Picture, Shade the Motion Picture. So many people who are completely unfamiliar with me that watch Shade the Motion Picture are kind of in awe, especially at the section on Bill Gates, okay, on him building really an empire of not only things that he supports through his foundation, but financially via farming and, I don't know, Monsanto and others. So please, please, please check these out if you are new to the broadcast. Thumbs the video up, subscribe, and share. Remember, the infowarrior.podbean.com. We're putting up vidcasts there, but then that's also a place with the RSS feed where you can subscribe. You can actually get audio versions of the program. And on top of that, if you're listening now live on Podbean, you can call in. And this is a platform that so far has not censored me. So everything here is indeed uncensored. So right now what I've got queued up here is the actual DVD. So hopefully it's not going to give me any problems. And this is before I clip some things out. This is a cartoon that is preceded by how they were, basically having communication with the soldiers and their loved ones via the mail system. So even this infrastructure was highly detailed so that classified information would not be passed around, and that there were sensors in between, again, just the communique of soldiers and their loved ones.
And from dozens of powerful shortwave stations beamed all over the globe, transcriptions of this program reach every American overseas who can find time to lend an ear.
Microfilm technology helped Americans stay in touch with the folks back home.
Letters from home. Each day, millions of them are sent to American servicemen fighting on distant battlefronts. Because of a war postal system called V-mail, they can be flown throughout the world, reaching distant points safely and with amazing speed. This plane is landing in Italy. Each bag of mail it carries contains 136,000 letters. Back in America, each letter was reduced to a tiny strip of film.
So again, you're seeing how they actually did it.
Now, near the front, automatic machines enlarge each overseas letter from 16mm motion picture negative to a 4x5-inch print. These strips are dried, carefully inspected, and cut into individual letters. Machines fold them and put them into envelopes. In this one laboratory, over 300,000 letters a day are handled. A complete locator card system takes care of mail incorrectly addressed.
I want people to really just think about that infrastructure alone during this era. They didn't even allow hand-to-hand mail. Everything was inspected and therefore censored when it was just given that way. I mean, that's pretty, unbelievable.
Censorship section, anything that might reveal vital military information is cut out.
Censorship. Most Americans agreed it was probably necessary, and most Americans, like Private Snafu, tried to avoid it.
And, once again, you look at the censorship here, right? And you look at this in a manner where it's always framed that most Americans went along with it. Most Americans, really? Well, I didn't live through that era. And basically, I am now beholden to what historians want to tell us. And one of the first, cut clips that we are going to play on the whole broadcast is where this gentleman, this narrator, says, well, yeah, we lied and we kept things secret, but it wasn't Goebbels level. Really? It wasn't? Well, you also have video clips, again, we're probably not going to play them here, where what? The Japanese are put in internment camps. That happened in this country after they demonized that group of people. So here's a cartoon.
Dear Sally Lou, this is it. They'll be shipping us out soon. From the equipment, it looks like the South Pacific.
And again, listen to that
This
voice.
is confidential.
That's right, same voice as Bugs Bunny, 100%.
So I'm sneaking this past the censor.
Oh, you're not going to sneak it past the censor, buddy. No, no, no. Oh, the electric eye. Oh, got you right on the old harness. The old harness. So there it is. The even censor gets him. Not a chance, buddy. Don't even think about it. Watch what you write. And there you go. So, one of the initial reasons I got this was all the USO stuff. Bob Hope in particular. They actually show you a lot of not only the comedy, but how Hope and others, not only that, Hope praising Joseph Stalin and the Russian bear back then. Again, World War II style. But, how they would send these women out there and they'd be dancing around and interloping with the troops. And really, Hollywood was a huge part of this war movement. And, you read the unauthorized biography of Bob Hope from 93. Judy Garland is in this. They do the Who's on First bit. So many people. Hope was having affairs with most of these people. We get beyond that, and we did in a previous video. But that's why I wanted to start with that. But right here is actually the introduction of this video where it tells you that this was a huge, huge effort. And, they ended up producing well over 1,000 films in that era via what? The military-industrial complex that was being built.
Veteran journalist Elmer Davis was put in charge of the Office of War Information, presiding over all U.S. propaganda, including radio and film.
Oh.
Another agency, the Office of Censorship, advised the press and newsreels what the public was allowed to know.
Latest pictures of the Battle of Tarawa in the Gilbert Islands. This phase of the battle, filmed under fire by United States Marine Corps cameramen, reveals something of the terrific fighting that took place in capturing this important base in the Pacific.
And by the way, this isn't the clip that I thought I was playing, but that's okay because obviously this one is also extremely important. And this is going to reveal to you not only about the Office of Censorship, but in this battle in particular, how most Americans, through this newsreel, had no idea of the massive casualties that were actually happening. They were shielding the public from the realities of war.
Machine gun nests wiped out by hand grenades. American Marines, veterans of Guadalcanal, destroying a force of more than 4,000 Japanese. American losses were heavy.
Far heavier than the newsreel audience knew. Tarawa was, in fact, a bloodbath, costing 1,000 U.S. dead and 2,000 wounded. The Office of War Information created dozens of films listing do's and don'ts.
Too fair.
And here, right here, what we're watching is basically they've already established that your gas is going to be rationed. Now, before a digital system, they talk about the black market and how you were able to get these gas tabs. Now, they're all playing poker, and this one guy is basically asked to do something. He says, well, I can't because I'm not allowed to have enough gas. This is back in the day when they were still creating a tattletale society that, I don't know, if you see something, say something via the war on terror. And then you exacerbated that on so many levels during COVID 1984. Watch this little piece of the propaganda.
Beats me.
No good. 3-7.
Take the loot, pirate. Well, time out for some food, gents. Let's break this up a little early tonight, boys. Frank and I are running up to his cabin in the mountains early tomorrow morning.
Oh, Bob, I'm afraid we better call that off. I'm running a little short on gas.
Oh, don't let that worry you. I can let you have a couple of coupons, but don't forget where you got them.
Will the guy down at the corner take him?
Sure, he won't ask any questions. I didn't put my license number on them, so they could just as well be yours as mine.
Just a minute. Are these your coupons, Bob?
Yeah, I'm giving them to Frank. I got plenty.
How'd you get them?
It's easy. I buy them. I don't know where the guy I buy them from gets them, and I'm not asking any questions. Gets me extra gas, get it?
Yeah, I get it.
Hey, wait
a minute. You haven't got
As
the
a guy
right
who's
to-
up to his neck in this war effort, I've got every right.
Oh, he's got every right to rip up your fake gas tickets. And now the other guy, and I love how they frame this stuff. Okay, this guy's like, I'm as good as an American as you. I buy bonds. I give blood. So, like, he's already arguing that he's done enough for the war effort. So even the bad guy has done a bunch for the war effort in this.
But don't start waving the flag at me. I'm just as good an American as you are. I buy bonds, I give blood.
And steal gas, the blood of our war effort. From our limited supply of available crude oil, we have to supply our armed forces with billions of gallons of aviation gas and billions more of a special all-purpose gas for our ground forces. And from that same limited supply of crude oil, we have to make toluene for TNT.
So you look at that part right there, okay? And I think that that's pretty important because think about this right now in the war effort. Meanwhile, I live in Iowa. I only have a 10-gallon tank. I got a little car. I went like almost as super premium as you could get I think it was like $3.90 something a gallon for me, and I filled up for under $40. That's not the reality for many Americans. But guess what reality it isn't for? The military. The military is gassing up. There's never going to be a gas shortage for them. Okay? And unless, again, it's a manufactured one for us to rely more on globalist forces, an international army. Let me make that extremely clear. So keep thumbing this up, subscribe, and share. Let's go to the intro of this. And you know what? This might get me in trouble because there is a little bit of racism in here. I'll be honest. But at the same time, this is historical. They talk about, quote unquote, slapping the Jap. That's not something I endorse. This is history, but we're not even going to play the more hardcore stuff. This is the intro. But again, remember, I want to specifically say this. They say that, this isn't Goebbels-style propaganda, but what did we do post-World War II? We split the Nazis with Russia via Operation Paperclip. And it's not like it was trading cards either, folks. It was like who first come, first serve, and then we'll cut deals later.
The first casualty of war, it's often been said, is truth. There was no American Goebbels spreading hate and poison, but Uncle Sam was in the propaganda and censorship business.
You bet it was. It was in the propaganda and censorship business.
New agencies in Washington sprang up. One created documentary films designed to boost morale. Another regulated movies. During the war, Hollywood turned out literally hundreds of uplifting patriotic pictures. America was, after all, the world capital of entertainment and popular culture. The creators of comic books, greeting cards, and advertising were not slow to cash in on the war. Nor was Tin Pan Alley. What America needs, said a congressman after Pearl Harbor, is a good 5-cent war song. Good or not, Americans heard hundreds before the war ended.
Songs all over. And one of the features in this, when we do go over to the uncensored end, is we're going to play a couple of songs where they talk about the quote-unquote new order or new world order that Hitler was trying to create. And that's something I featured in my film Invisible Empire. We led with please check out these films. Please check out Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, so you can take a historical context, a modern historical context of that terminology and how it is really linked to what? Collectivism and the regimentation of all human beings, no matter who are the proponents of it.
We're off to ride the height right off of the hiney. We're off to slap the Jap right off of the map.
We'll knock him on his axis right from here to Alabama. Oh, the son of a gun who picks on Uncle Sam.
We don't care if it's Tripoli or Sumatra. We don't care if it's Tokyo or Siam.
We'll sock the sukiyaki out of any diagram. Oh, the son of a gun who picks on Uncle Sam.
So let's just stop it right there. During the War on Terror, there was also, what, a slew of patriotism, especially in the country music arena during that time period. Okay? And right here, this is yet another, propaganda film where you're going to see in real time how they dehumanized the Japanese and they somehow made them look nefarious because they were teaching the children, traditional discipline and combat. Okay, take a look. It's pretty wild.
In songs and comic books and films, America's Japanese enemies were shown in a crude and lurid light.
As iron ore is melted in furnaces to remove impurities, so in Japan, humanitarian impurities.
I mean, seriously, take a look at how the March of War. I mean, give me a break. These are basically just school children during the culture, military academy, And what, they're showing you like this steel and iron ore being cast. Oh, and they're all being trained to be warriors.
Are burned out of the child. As the steel is shaped by beating and hammering, so is the boy hammered and beaten into the shape of the fanatic samurai.
Now think about this with no sound right now. You're just watching this part of the video. A fanatic samurai. Take a look at the kids. This is wild. Okay, again. Oh, they're hammering the steel. This is propaganda 101. Oh, now they got swords. They got wooden swords. Now look at the chubby kid in the front. You know that's a rich kid right there, especially during this time period. And especially in that culture. And look at him sweat, too, when they get the close-up. Whoa, he's sweating. He's dangerous. And now that's it. There's the shot. That proves it, man.
The final product, the Japanese soldier. Ready to shoot, smash, and slug Jap superiority into all non-Japanese people.
Jap superiority into all non-Japanese people. Yeah, you're right. There was no Goebbels type propaganda there. And now they did the same thing to Germany. Take a look. Here it comes. Let's dehumanize them as well.
The Germans, too, were shown as brutes as a celluloid war was waged against the Nazis. Aimed not only at Hitler and his gang, official U.S. films targeted the German people, too.
There must be no tenderness in youth. I want to see in their eyes the gleam of the beast of prey. Brutality is respected. I shall spread terror. Today, Germany. Tomorrow, the world.
And I mean, when I look at something just like that, and you kind of just look at the bemused face on some of these kids that are in helmets and just kind of marching, they're clueless. They have no idea what they're fighting for. That could be said for many young, ignorant soldiers across the world of varying degrees of propaganda, period. And I'll say this, that's what's good about this little doco. Is, it doesn't really, present itself as anything but, and it will at least admit, yes, we were dehumanizing people.
That's how Carl Schmitt got his soul. That's how the general staff, the big industrialists, the state officials, the landowners, the gangster chieftains, put their plans into effect and prepared Carl Schmitt for his generation's attempt to smash the world into submission.
Now, when you look at all those business owners, when you get to the upper echelons of the people that were funding both sides of the war, are they ever really brought to justice? I mean, when you look at who was conducting the most fierce of these experiments, have they ever been brought to justice? And, there's a lot of talk of the Nazis, and we talked about these experimentations on human beings. Unit 731 from the 30s and 40s in Japan, where people who literally were involved in, openly now, the human experimentation and death of tens of thousands of people individually as doctors, okay, in chemical and biological warfare. They walk free. We don't know their names. Same era, same time period. And again, you read Annie Jacobson's Area 51, and you know what we did during the atomic era through the Department of Energy and others. We did horrific experiments. This is just reality. But again, take a vision into the propaganda that you're seeing. These are the bad guys all the time. And by the way, when they talk about the internment camps later in the Japan section, they have people that end up volunteering for war, and they did a whole propaganda piece on that unit. If you can find Hollywood goes to war, hour and 20 minutes, baby. We're not going to play anywhere near that, but you're starting to get the picture, okay? So let's wrap that part of it, and then I think this section right here is one in which you have a soldier writing back home to his mother, shaming women who aren't a part of the war effort or don't want to be.
24 films like these were made by the Hollywood studios themselves, with profits going to charity. Here, an infantry officer in Europe writes home to his mother.
Believe me, today we've been through some of the real stuff. The fellas are asleep now. They're half dead with exhaustion. They're filthy with sweat and dirt. But take my word for it, Mom. They're grand soldiers, every one of them.
Now, again, you notice how they frame it. This is classic propaganda. First, you try to make the audience, as sympathetic to the cause as possible, and you just got a destroyed, war-torn area, soldiers. And I assure you guys that there's no way, in reality, after whatever just supposedly happened to these guys, that all of them except for one person would be asleep. Some of these people didn't sleep for days. They were so jazzed up on the adrenaline and just the horror around it. And the thing, this is classic Hollywood style propaganda.
Tell every woman in our town, from one soldier to another, that I'm proud of them all. Say hello to Mrs. Zabinski. Tell her I think she's a good soldier, too. Say hello to Mrs. Carney, who organized the canteen down at the station. Yes, you're all good soldiers, Mom. We know how you're going without things so as to buy just one more war stamp or one more bond.
So again, you're doing without to support the war effort. And they actually, some of the things in this video are buying war bonds. That's a huge thing, right? And basically, they're going to, just like now, they're telling you right now, oh, you're paying more at the gas. That's nothing compared to what's going on with the Ukrainian people. All right, and you're going to see that theme now that they had then.
I know what a kick you used to get out of new clothes. You're not fooling me now when you say you like your old things best. And you're not fooling me when you make exceptions for some of the other women in our town. There shouldn't be any exceptions.
Oh, no exceptions.
Just what does Mrs. Exception mean when she tells you she had to give up her Red Cross work because it didn't leave her time enough to get her hair done each week?
Oh, Red Cross. You mean the corrupt establishment that stole a bunch of 9/11 money down the line? Yeah, we should have trusted them during World War II, right? Red Cross. Okay. Again, these institutions that are totally corrupt being promoted by propaganda, and you're bad. You should be shamed. No exceptions for you.
And what does this other Mrs. Exception mean when she says she can't help at the canteen because they need her at the same time at a bridge party? And what does Miss Exception mean when she says she can't do a war job because they're all so monotonous and dirty?
Oh.
And what does this Mrs. Exception mean by complaining about high prices and then boasting of all the stuff she bought on the black market?
Well,
these aren't exceptions, Mom. They're only slackers.
So there it is again. She's got to make, we all have to make exceptions. Or I'm sorry, we have to make concessions. There are no exceptions. All right, for the war effort. You don't think that this can happen now? You don't think it is happening now? Okay. So look, I got, I think, 4 more clips that we're going to play on the other side. Some of them are songs. Again, some of them are songs making fun of the Reich and Hitler and the quote-unquote new order that he's trying to bring. They're lionizing the Russians. They're demonizing, on a racial level, the Japanese. And I think that's the main reason we're not going to, continue with all these clips, because that's the next one. I mean, they literally dehumanize a group of people, round them up, and put them in camps and tell you they're giving those people opportunities. We're going to play that all on the other side. If you want to join us, the way to do so is either come over to theinfowarrior.podbean.com, where we're streaming live right now, or Rockfin, ROKFIN.com. We are now officially, I believe, 51,000 plus strong. Let's refresh. You bet we are. We are 51,000 plus strong over at the Rockfin. We're completely uncensored. We wish we didn't have to leave you, YouTube.